Could you imagine for a moment being abandoned and trapped in this lifeless, barren desert that's so old that it is literally rusting? You got virtually no atmosphere, no protection from solar radiation outside of your one shelter that happened to be left there for you. And you're just abandoned, stuck millions of miles from home with no way to get home, no way to communicate with home, and no way to let anybody know that you're still alive. Well, that is the predicament of astronaut Mark Watney in The Martian, this month's Patron Pick. If you want to know more of my thoughts on this book, stay tuned. That's coming right up. All right, so this month's patron pick is The Martian. If you also want to have the opportunity to have a vote on what book I am going to read, be sure to join me over on the Patreon. That will be linked below. And also, of course, like this video and subscribe if you want to hear more science fiction content from me. I also read fantasy and nonfiction as well. So if you like that kind of content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You can also join me over on the Discord. I'll have that link below and we can have a chat and conversation about that as well. All right, so let's get into this month's patron pick, The Martian by Andy Weir. This is a book I'd heard a lot about and BookTube has been raving on it for everybody that has reviewed this book. I put this up as a selection for my patron pick for this month's read. And I tell you, my patrons sure know how to pick them. This was an amazing read. I absolutely loved this book from start to finish. I mean, just from the beginning of this concept of this book was absolutely an amazing concept. It's something that I haven't seen done in science fiction. Mars is a really big focus right now in exploration. We got companies like, Blue Origin and looking to basically win the space race. It has become a commercial endeavor. Mars is a key target for that. We got Elon Musk and his company that is out there trying to colonize Mars and all kinds of things going on with the race to Mars. So this is definitely something that is within our purview, within our ultimate destination for both government space exploration with organizations like NASA as well as the private industry. So the concept of Martians surviving on Mars is a very real applicable concept to our modern era. So the idea that a Martian or an astronaut could be left behind is a terrifying prospect when you think about it, especially since, he would have no one there to help him survive, which in and of itself is pretty scary. I mean, being abandoned in the middle of nowhere and trying to survive in the wilderness of Earth, which abundantly supports life, is scary enough, but being abandoned on Mars, where there's no life support of any kind except for the little bit that's been left behind, that is something that is going to be a terrifying prospect. So I love that idea in this book and how that would potentially work. Definitely would describe this as hard science fiction. There's a lot of science built into us. It's not make-believe technologies by any stretch of the imagination. It's not make-believe ideas. It's using hard real-world science in an effort to help Mark Watney survive, our main character. So the vast majority of this book is written in a format in which he's kind of basically logging his experiences day by day. So it's kind of written in log day Sol 349, for example. This is what I did today. And it's just really interesting the way that we kind of see the progress that he's had, his setbacks, his achievements, his successes, as we go throughout this book. And of course, it flashes back a little bit to the events that are going on Earth, how NASA's dealing with the fallout of finding out that they left their astronaut behind, which definitely helped play into the story. But I have to say that with those parts where it flashes back to what's going on Earth, I was actually finding myself anxious to get back to Watney and what's going on Mars. What's he doing? How is he surviving? This book drew me in so effectively and so well. I was hooked from start to finish, loving every aspect of it. I mean, there were parts where I felt like I wanted to stand up and start cheering, like, yes, yeah, he did it, he succeeded, yes. And then when something bad happens, I'm like, oh no. what's going to happen? No, 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 no. He has to survive this. There's no way he can't make it. He has to make it. There's no, every setback was just like heart-wrenching to see, and every success, every achievement, every obstacle he overcame, and I was just like, yes, cheering it on. Like, your team scored a goal, you got to jump up and celebrate. Whoa, it was crazy. Absolutely love the way this was written, and Andy Weir did such a phenomenal job of creating a character that you cared so desperately for, that you wanted to see succeed in every aspect and every moment of every day. This is a very, very serious situation that we find our character Watney in, but it's also mixed with some phenomenal humor. I love the humor in this, and the way that he explains things and the way that he gets into things and explaining the situations. His humor, his wit is absolutely hilarious. I found myself laughing out loud at so many different parts of this book constantly, despite the serious nature of the circumstances that we find our character in. So that humor mixed with his desperation and the events that are going on really drew you in and bring that attachment to Watney as he struggles to survive in this barren wasteland. And I absolutely love the way that came out in this book. It was just amazing. If you have not read The Martian, and you're and especially if you're someone who's into that hard sci-fi, read The Martian. It's well worth it, I promise. Just amazing. And thank you, patrons, for picking The Martian for me to read. This was awesome. I absolutely love that. It was a great pick and a fantastic read from start to finish. I'm so glad I got to read this book this month. It's just great from start to finish. I only really have a couple of nitpicks, and these are very, very, very small nitpicks, honestly. So, you know, take them with a grain of salt, I guess is the best way to put it. There is one part in the book where it kind of flashes back to the original incident that left Watney stranded on Mars to begin with. So this happens about halfway through the book, and it just kind of took me out of the book a little bit because we already know what happened. So to kind of flash back, it is from the crew's perspective. The crew that left Mars is from their perspective on what happened, but it kind of took me out of the story because at that point we already knew what happened. We already know how we got stranded there. What did we need that flashback for? And so that kind of pulled me out of it a little bit, but hey, you know, that's okay because like I said, overall this is a fantastic book. And the only other part that's a bit nitpicky is there is a part that's kind of inconsistent in the story. Just one reference point where at one point it mentions the next Ares mission, which is the mission that left Watney stranded on Mars to begin with. It talks about the next Ares mission will be scheduled in 4 years, but then in another part of the book it references it won't even launch for 5 years. So there's a bit of an inconsistency in the timelines reported in the story for the next Ares mission and that kind of thing. But other than those two things, this book was phenomenal. Definitely, I would give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars, but I did rate it 5 stars on Goodreads because you can't really do half a star, and quite frankly, it's far better than a 4. Fantastic read. I'm so glad I read this. Just, wow. I've definitely got to get Project Hail Mary. That is now on my wish list. I know that's Mark Weir's next book. So I do plan on buying that book eventually. Not entirely sure when I'll get to it, but I'm definitely going to get to it. Love this book from start to finish. Fantastic. Andy Weir's The Martian. Well worth your read, especially if you're a hard sci-fi fan. So those are my thoughts. Bit of a gush rant review, but those are my thoughts on The Martian by Andy Weir. And of course, as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you want more of these videos. And of course, join me over on the Discord. As I mentioned, you can join me. We could have some good conversations over on the Discord about all things science fiction, fantasy, nonfiction, basically anything you want. I got a whole bunch of different channels there. And as well, you can join me on the Patreon, where you get to choose my next read and be entered into draws for book giveaways at the right tiers as well. Or you could just vote on what I'm going to read in the next month and get access to see this video early. With my Patron Pick reviews will go up on Patreon early before they go out to everybody else. So again, thank you so much for watching. Look forward to seeing you next time on the next episode of Drew's Book Reviews. Until then, keep on reading. Bye.